Hey guys, and welcome. With the weather changing and becoming more rainy and dreary, it feels like whenever I turn on the TV, the remote can just read my mind and automatically takes me to the "will fill you with dread" section. And luckily for the remote, that's exactly where I was going. It's the only place I ever go. And it looks like I'm not the only one, because whenever I make a video with my favorite picks, I'm basically guaranteed to get comments with your guys' recommendations. And by the way, I already have a list of movies to watch. So if you have any other recommendations, please keep them coming. So for this list, as always, I try to add some entries that I feel don't get talked about enough, but I can guarantee that all of them will leave you feeling empty for one reason or another. Number 5, Amour. Directed by the one and only Michael Haneke, mostly known by his 1997 movie Bunny Games. That should be enough information to convince you that this movie's worth a watch. Thanks for tuning in. Just kidding, but if you insist on a longer explanation as to why Amour will leave you feeling empty inside, let's dive in. Amour is one of those movies that doesn't just make you sad, it drains you. It's that tragic in the usual way, with music cues and cathartic breakdowns. It's quiet, deliberate, and suffocatingly real. This story follows Anne and Georges, an elderly couple in their 80s who have spent their lives together, reading, talking, listening to classical music, doing the kind of small, tender things that make up a lifetime of love. When Anne suddenly has a stroke, everything they've built together begins to erode, not through explosive drama, but through the slow, day-by-day reality of decline. What starts as an act of love, Georges taking care of his wife, turns into an act of endurance. Haneke films it all with brutal honesty. There's no comforting music, no cinematic distance. The camera barely moves. It just stays, often too long, making you feel the weight of every moment. Georges helping Anne eat, Anne struggling to speak, the quiet, defeated glances between them. You watch as her world, and his, shrinks to the confines of their Paris apartment, which starts to feel less like a home and more like a waiting room for death. What's so devastating about Amour isn't just the subject matter, but the way the director shows that humanity doesn't always take on the form of compassion and understanding. Rather, even though Georges loves his wife, he's starting to get annoyed and frustrated. Haneke is not saying love conquers all. He's saying love endures everything, even when it shouldn't have to. The tenderness between Georges and Anne is still there, but it's buried under exhaustion, fear, and the quiet horror of watching someone you love disappear piece by piece. There's no villain here, just the slow, unstoppable erosion of a shared life. When the film finally ends, you will be left feeling empty and haunted, because what Amour shows isn't some distant tragedy. It's something that will happen to all of us, or to someone we love. It's the kind of film that stays with you for days, maybe longer. The image of that dim apartment, the silence between them, the final act of mercy Georges commits out of love. It's tender, brutal, and profoundly human. While the first pick would be perfect for those who are looking for a movie that will be deeply introspective, my second choice goes out to those who are looking for a horror movie that could potentially scar you for life. Number 4, The Girl Next Door. The Girl Next Door isn't the kind of horror movie that lets you escape into fantasy. There are no ghosts, no supernatural killers, no jump scares. What makes it so unbearable is that it's based on something that actually happened. The film is based on the book of the same name, written by Jack Ketchum. I would absolutely recommend the book as well. Ketchum is a terrific writer. The book is loosely inspired by the 1965 murder of Sylvia Likens, and it follows two sisters sent to live with their aunt after their parents die. What begins as a bleak coming-of-age story turns into a nightmare of abuse and cruelty. So extreme that by the end, you're not watching a horror movie, you're watching humanity rot in real time. There's nothing sensational about the way the violence unfolds. In fact, It's the lack of style that makes it so disturbing. The film feels like a memory, sun-bleached, suburban, almost dull at first. Kids ride bikes, neighbors mow lawns, and behind one basement door, something unspeakable is happening. That's the point. Evil doesn't live in haunted houses. It lives down the street. Blanche Baker, as the aunt, delivers one of the most chilling performances in modern horror. Not because she's monstrous, but because she's ordinary. Her cruelty feels disturbingly casual, like she's enforcing rules rather than committing torture. As the story goes on, it becomes harder and harder to look at. The kids join in the abuse, the neighbors who don't ask questions, everyone's complicit. You realize this isn't just a film about one girl's suffering. It's about the thin line between civilization and savagery. The longer it goes on, the more it peels back the facade of decency to show what's festering underneath. This movie will leave you feeling hollow. It's the kind of emptiness that comes from witnessing something you just can't forget or justify. The movie doesn't glorify violence. It exposes it. It shows how extreme abuse doesn't happen overnight. You become slowly desensitized to it. You're left thinking about how easily people can look away, how quickly innocence can vanish, and how evil doesn't need a reason, just permission. The Girl Next Door isn't an easy film to recommend, but it's one you never truly get over. It doesn't just show the darkness of humanity, it makes you recognize how close it really is. Number 3, Grave of the Fireflies. A slightly different entry as it's anime, of which I am normally not a fan. However, this movie transcends the fact that it's animated, and I guarantee you that even if you're not a fan of anime, you will see value in this feature. Grave of the Fireflies shows the quiet, everyday suffering that war leaves behind. It tells the story of two siblings, Seita and Setsuko, struggling to survive in Japan during the final months of World War II. But rather than showing soldiers or battles, the film narrows its focus to something smaller and infinitely more devastating. What happens to children when the world around them collapses? The movie opens with Seita's death, so you know from the very beginning that this story doesn't end well. From there, you watch everything that leads to it. The fire bombings, the starvation, the quiet erosion of hope. But Takahata doesn't linger on gore or spectacle. He lingers on moments that are almost unbearably human. Setsuko playing with candy tins, laughing at fireflies, pretending she's cooking rice when there is nothing left to eat. It's that contrast, the innocence of childhood against the backdrop of absolute ruin, that makes Grave of the Fireflies so gut-wrenching. There's a particular cruelty to how beautiful the movie looks. The animation is delicate, almost serene. Bright summer skies, glowing fireflies, quiet fields, all of it existing alongside death and decay. That beauty makes it worse. It reminds you that even as the world falls apart, it can still look peaceful. That tension between the gentle and the horrific is what makes Grave of the Fireflies so difficult to sit through. You're watching children trying to create normalcy in a world that's already decided they won't survive it. It's not tragedy for tragedy's sake. It's the quiet realization that there are no heroes in war, no victories that aren't built on loss. Seita and Setsuko aren't symbols. They're just two lives swallowed by history, two lights snuffed out like the fireflies that give the movie its name. The film leaves you with the weight of everything humanity tries to forget. That innocence doesn't stand a chance in a world obsessed with survival, and that love, no matter how pure, can't keep anyone alive. It's a masterpiece, and even if you're not normally a crier, this movie might change that. I have mentioned my next pick in one of my other videos, but it really fits the premise of this video so well. Plus it deserves so much more recognition, I have to talk about it again. Number 2, Lilia Forever. Released in 2002 and directed by Lukas Murisen, it follows Lilia, a 16-year-old girl living in a decaying post-Soviet housing block, abandoned by her mother and basically left to her own devices. At first, she dreams of a better life, of love, freedom, something beyond the concrete and graffiti that cage her in. But the world she lives in doesn't reward hope, it punishes it. And what begins as a rough slice of realism slowly turns into one of the most harrowing depictions of exploitation and despair ever put on screen. There is no melodrama in Lilia Forever. The director shoots everything in this washed-out, almost documentary-like style. Handheld, raw, unflinching. The camera lingers on peeling wallpaper, empty stairwells. It's the kind of ugliness that feels real, lived in. Lilia's life unravels quietly. Her mother leaves for America with a boyfriend and never comes back. Her friends turn on her, and eventually she's lured into sex trafficking under the illusion of escape. That's what makes it so devastating. Every moment of warmth or laughter feels like it's on borrowed time. The real horror of Lilia Forever isn't the violence. It's how ordinary it feels. Mooderson doesn't show you villains twirling mustaches or big cinematic showdowns. The adults who look away, the poverty that traps, the men who take advantage. It all blurs together into this quiet machinery of cruelty. Lilia isn't destroyed by one person. She's destroyed by neglect, by indifference, by a world that doesn't care if she survives. And through it all, there is Volodya, a young boy, her only friend, who loves her in that innocent, desperate way that only kids can. His presence is the only thing that gives the movie a pulse of humanity, but even that is temporary. When he dies, Lilia's final thread to the world snaps. You want her to finally be somewhere safe, even if that place doesn't exist. When the movie ends, you're left with this unbearable emptiness. Not because it surprised you, but because it didn't. You knew it was heading there, and there was nothing you could do to stop it. That's the kind of film Lilia Forever is. It doesn't shock you with twists. It breaks you with truth. It's not just about one girl's tragedy. It's about how entire societies abandon their most vulnerable, and how easily hope can turn into a trap. It leaves you hollow, angry, and painfully aware of how fragile innocence really is. It's the kind of movie you'll only watch once, but you'll never, ever forget. Number 1. Infinity Pool. Infinity Pool, directed by Brandon Cronenberg, isn't horror in the traditional sense. It's more like watching a nightmare unravel in broad daylight. It starts as a stylish vacation movie, a struggling writer and his wife staying at a luxury resort in a fictional, oppressive country. Everything looks perfect. White sands, endless cocktails, beautiful people, until one reckless decision tears through the illusion. After a hit-and-run accident, James discovers that in this country, the wealthy can buy their way out of punishment by paying to have a clone executed in their place. From there, morality, identity, and sanity begin to dissolve. Brandon Cronenberg, much like his father, doesn't do subtle. The film is grotesque and hypnotic, drenched in neon light, blood, and hallucinatory imagery. But beneath the surrealism, there is something painfully recognizable. Privilege rotting from the inside out. James begins as a meek outsider, ashamed of his creative failures, but once he realizes he can literally kill versions of himself without consequence, something inside him snaps. It's a perfect metaphor for modern excess, a world where the rich can destroy and consume without ever truly facing the weight of what they've done. The more the characters indulge, the less human they seem, until the whole resort feels like a purgatory for people who have traded their souls for pleasure. What makes Infinity Pool so unnerving is the void behind it. Every act of brutality feels detached, almost bored, like they're chasing pain just to feel something. Alexander Skarsgård plays James with this eerie mix of fear and fascination. You can see him breaking apart, but also at times loving the freedom that comes with losing all sense of consequence. Mia Goth, on the other hand, is pure chaos, gleefully seductive and unhinged, embodying the film's philosophy that once you've seen what you're capable of, you can never go back. Infinity Pool doesn't punish its characters. It just lets them wallow in their own decay. I hope you enjoyed watching my 5 picks for movies that will leave you feeling empty. These are some of my favorite videos to make, so if I convinced you to give any of those a shot, please let me know. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.